two individuals. And so the matter of financing or finances is very critical marriage, because there are a lot of uses and a lot of needs that must be met by finances. So it is a very critical issue in marriage. And marriage itself is a journey that begins after the wedding day. And the Bible has a lot to talk about money, about finances, about needs, even where you live, where you eat, what you wear. These are essentials that even Jesus himself in Matthew chapter 6 was talking about. And it is very important that we observe this program of finances right from the word go. And indeed, my experience with my wife Jane is that you should plan it, or you should plan your understanding and unite together and combine your approaches to finances even before you get married. As you date one another, these things should come through. One should be clear about what they earn, what they have, what their ambitions are in terms of living. Because some people just want known that they are rich, or that they are living in very important residential, or they are driving big cars. Men and women have different attitudes in terms of makeup. We are wired very differently. How do you minister to one another with so many differences, different approaches? The way we have, the environment we have grown in, our parents, the way they manage, the way they organize themselves, how did we learn from them? How do we meet each other's needs? How do you know their needs without being open, without being committed to remaining as one, sharing needs, sharing ambitions? And this matters a great deal because we know that the Bible talks much about money. There is so much reference to issues that concern money. In fact, Ecclesiastes chapter 10 and verse 19 says that everything depends on money. Money is the answer for everything. That is Ecclesiastes chapter 19b, 10:19, chapter 10, verse 19b. And verse 18 before it actually warns against laziness, against hands that don't work, because it says that laziness pushes rafters, the ceiling or the roof of a house sags, and idle hands, laziness makes, or it is irresponsible, and actually the house begins to leak. That is verse 18 of Ecclesiastes chapter 19. So money is the one that protects us in the places where we live. But money depends on what we do, our hands, our thoughts, our plans. So we have to share this. And my wife and I say that the marriage depends, the happiness in marriage depends on how clear people share their needs, their fears, their skills, their abilities, their dreams, So secrets are not useful. They are not helpful. People must be committed. People must share their ideas. How about things that will come? Okay, this let's show the okay, that is something that I believe people are seeing. God makes us with very many different ideas. This uh, picture here shows different wiring or the way that God creates us. We are very different in the way we think, the way we talk, the way we decide on how to live. God has given us abilities. He, he has created our bodies, our hearts, our spirits, and our attitudes, our consciences, in very many different ways as individuals. So physically, spiritually, and even in all situations, we must accept that we have differences. So to be one, we have to think together. We have to talk. We have to be committed to view things in one way that we both understand, both agree on. We must accept the differences. How about children? What about our children? How many do we have? How many, where do they go to school? How about our needs for food, our needs for transport, our gifts to the church, or even our needs for medical, for health and medical expenses? Our in-laws are part of us as a family. How do we deal with our siblings? How do we deal with our relatives? Although we have left our parents and clung to each other, we know that they have needs. Some of us are the oldest in the family, and our siblings are smaller, and the parents are not able to care for all their needs. So we have to think about this as man and wife. How different are our in-law families? How do we deal with these issues? To what extent do we support them? These are key issues. And we have to get used to this new kind of life as years pass on. The first 5 years are actually important in the way that we learn to cope with one another. The next 6 to 10 years, we are having children. They are learning to talk. They are asking a lot of questions. They are getting, they are observing the way we live. We must model them. We must influence them. That we love them. We meet their needs, but not their open desires, not just their wants. There are needs and there are wants. Children have to be trained that they have to accept if we cannot afford something that maybe their friends have, they need to accept that. I remember one of our children, the youngest, used to use a funny language. And one time I told him I didn't have money to buy him a bicycle. And he told me, but Dad, it is easy. You just go to the bank and get money. Because that is what he had learned from his friends. That his friends, when they need something, their daddy just the bank and gets money. And he thought that that is the way I should also buy him a bicycle. I should go to the bank, just get money and buy the bicycle. But he did not know that you have to have the money, keep in the bank, and then go to the bank and get it to buy what they need, what they need in their lives. But he did not also know that a bicycle was not a needful something, but it was just a want from him. 11 to 20 years is a very complicated time because the children have grown up, they have become adolescents, they have started to think about future plans. And also our careers have affected us a great deal. Maybe we have been promoted. Maybe we have gone for further studies. Maybe our work is so crunching that we become too much involved and we spend so much time in workplaces that we spend less time in families. And we need to have decided what kind of life we live while we are working. Where does work join us, or where do we allow work to interfere with our family relationship, family timings, children, and all that? Because work can be very involving. When we want more money, when we want more business, when we want something to help us get more money to live with, this can affect us a great deal. So this time, 11 to 20 years, is a very challenging time. We are also getting to midlife or mid adolescence. The midlife is something also that is challenging because we have looked at our peers, we have seen them how they have grown, we have seen them how they have expanded. We are tempted to be like them, maybe to live in quarters that are more expensive, drive cars that are more expensive, or buy land or build houses that are bigger. All these issues are facing us. How do we deal with them? And the main thing is decide, talk, pray together, thank God, and remember the issues in Matthew 6 that Jesus said, remember, do not waste your time planning or worrying about tomorrow, because tomorrow will worry for itself. Today has its needs, and God cares. Think about the values, the spiritual values. What does God want you to do? Where does God want you to work? How does God want you to relate with other people, workmates, or colleagues, or friends, or couples? Think about God's godly issues, spiritual issues. These are more, and that is why Jesus was saying, you cannot serve two masters. You cannot serve God and serve money, because it will not be possible. You will have to give up one and concentrate more in one other call. So it is very, very inconvenient for us, but God has his wisdom, and he says he will guide us. If we invest more in the heavenly kingdom than in the earthly kingdom. Sometimes we are so so earthly minded that the heavenly issues have not big say in our lives. And next one, please. It is important for us to bear in mind what God says we should, how we should live. So, we decided many things before we got married, and it's just my testimony that we would share our needs. We would be honest with one another. We would also know that our jobs would be less than our families. We would not spend family time in jobs unless there were critical issues that needs to be met, and those are not on daily basis. Our children would not be in boarding schools in primary school because we need them. They need to see how we live. We need to train them how to also live their lives when they are grown up. So family time was very important. We needed to spend time in the family altar with the children, praying together, discussing issues. But we also decided that as the children grew up, we would be open to them about needs needs and about financial financial needs and financial strains and what we were able to do and why we were living where we are living, why we were doing the job we were doing or whatever it is. If it is business, but in our time it was mainly jobs. So we need to share with our children issues that relate to them so that when they say, oh, when I grow up, I want to be like my daddy. Let this be guided by our special values before the children are too much or they have before they grow up to be independent. So let them see the kind of life that we live and the value we give to money, to business, to workplace. Please. Thank you. So areas of support like getting loans for building, for plots, for whatever, it needs to be guided, it needs to be supported by both of us and the children when they are grown up and they are still living with us and relating and understanding. So we also need to support ministry like the church, the tithes or ministry gifts to people who are in need. It is very important, not just in laws, but there are other issues about people who are in need, who may not even be related to us, because the scripture tells us to be compassionate. So we need to show even our children that we relate to other people that may not necessarily be friends or members of our family, but because we understand their needs as shared, maybe in the church, maybe in the community, maybe in the neighborhood, we need to be careful how the children see our behavior for the people surrounding us. So together, we have been together for now 50 years next year in February, and we just thank God for the way He has brought us along that length of time. But it's because of our commitment to one another. And I want to conclude because of the time, and let me say Job in chapter 1 said in verse 21 that he came from his mother's womb empty-handed, and he will live this life empty-handed. And that is when all his property had been destroyed. Let me finish by saying premarital, prayerful plans prevent painful potential projects, predicament, or problems. Those are maybe about 10 P's, but you have to think, arrange, be prayerful, make plans, understand, and this will protect you or protect your projects from predicaments, from problems, and from danger. So the final aspect is really just saying, trust God to be the driver of your family. And the last year, it says, godly manhood depends on God. Without God, there is pain. But with God, there is hope. That is what I say, watch out. There are some languages here, Italian or Spanish, that glory to God alone. And without God, as Psalm 127 says, without God building a house, your labor is in vain. So there is pain, there is dissatisfaction. So to avoid this, trust in God for your finances. Be honest with your spouse. Share together before marriage, within marriage, and every time. But also write your will. This is my final thing. Write your will. Don't wait until you are not there. The will is important because it will avoid issues that we see relating to families even today. Feel free to write your will and keep revising it as things keep changing. And let your children know when they are grown up about your wishes when you are not there. May God bless you. Thank you so very much.
Wow. Thank you very much, Dad. That was, I believe, very clear and very deep. I think one of the things that, for those of us who were here last time, you noticed us that Wafula shared on loving your wife, and now that Shunem shares on issues of financial wellness. The emphasis on our walk with God, our relationship with God. It's a discipleship issue, it's a kingdom issue. I want to welcome John. Please, if you have any questions or comments, inbox them to James Bogwa, who is here with us. We'll hope to have some time to look at them. But at this time, John, karibu. And then after John, our dad Wafula will come in. Karibu, John.
I start by saying that I'm in total agreement with what my elder brother has said. And so I can summarize what he has said 3 ways. Number one, he is saying finances are the outer cover, and the outer cover is influenced by the inside. So it is your beliefs that will determine how you behave. If I wanted to know whether you love your wife, all I need is to pick your checkbook. You can be telling us how much you love, but then if I see your checkbook is just about you and your relatives, and I can't see where the checkbook is including your wife and her relatives, I know simply you are just saying words. You love is the inner thing, but how you use the money demonstrates whether you really are there. You know, James says, and you keep hearing me repeat this one. James says, faith without works is dead. What that means is that when you claim to have faith in Jesus, but your works are contradicting that faith, the truth is, it is simply you say you have faith, but you actually don't have it. The way to know whether you have faith, it influences what you are saying. So whatever the faith that is influencing your behavior, that is your faith. Not the one you are claiming, but the one that is seen. And I think that's what our brother was emphasizing, and which I agree with. That you need to think about. So instead of wondering, how do we budget? What do we do? Those are mechanics. Think about what is our marriage all about. Second thing I think he has said, and maybe by putting it in different words, you will still understand it, is the fact that you need to see money for what it is, another affair. It's not going to last long. That's why he is saying he's not afraid of writing his will early, because by and large, he has a heaven to go to. He's only passing through the earth. And you need to remember that. Sometimes you are holding on to money. You can't even allow your wife to know. Then you go. Who tells you have to be as old as our brother who is going towards 80 to go home? Some go before they are 50. So it's important to understand money must not be taken as something long term. It's simply a facilitation for where we are going. Our real life is not in this one. Our real life is in heaven. And so you should not be doing something about money that will deprive you of your home in heaven. And I think that's why he he spent a lot of time emphasizing about your commitment to God and you are following what the Lord is saying. Thirdly, I think he is simply saying very, very clearly that you cannot ignore the needs. Marriage is not about being romantic. There are bills to be paid. And Njoguchero has told us those bills don't just come from you. They also come about your children. Then he even talked about the relatives who are looking up to you, your siblings who are still not finished school. And so you need to think of how the money that you have can actually be used on that. Now, I've taken all my time trying to tell Jogujero that I was listening. But I hope in the process you are also gaining something by me rephrasing exactly what I said. But I've known him longer than you, so I have a right to repeat what he said. For me, I want to say just a few things in the few minutes that are remaining. If you don't follow the advice you have been given by this elder, what will go wrong? If you decide that money will be separate, so you don't involve your wife, she can have her money, you have your money, that you really don't want to work money. Issues of money, not. Bedroom, we are totally one. That's what the Bible said. Now, but on the pocket, sure, there are two separate pockets. Now, if that is your philosophy of life, which Mzee told us not to follow, what will go wrong? I want to give you a few pointers to what goes wrong. And it's not a theory. At least for the last 25 years, my wife and I have been involved in counseling people. Not because we are counselors. We are not counselors, but just people come to us. And one of the things I can assure you, in as long as you do not bring your money together, I can predict without any fear of contradiction, you are going to have trouble in all the other departments. I don't know how when your wife thinks you are not looking after her financially, even the bedroom will suffer. Even how you bring up your children will suffer. Everything else becomes a problem. And that all comes from you have money, like our brother told us, money that he doesn't know about. So she expects you to do certain things and you don't do them. So she feels you don't love her. And sometimes it's very unfortunate that the truth is, huna pesa, you are empty. There's not a single shilling you have. But she believes you are hiding it. My friend, that behavior on money is going to affect all the other departments of your life. And so your marriage has challenges. For example, you may say your problems are in the bedroom, or your problems are with this other thing, in-laws, whatnot. But they all come from the fact that you do not go to in-laws as a joint group. You go to in-laws on your own. So you can see you built a house for your mother, and yet my mother doesn't have a house yet. Why are you doing that? But you see, it all you are thinking it's an in-law problem. It's not an in-law problem. It's simply that your money is not one. And if you don't actually, because a lot of people say, "Aye, that's dangerous. She wash me clean. If we put our money together, I can't trust her." Fail to trust her, and you will see the consequences in terms of your marriage. Second thing that will happen is that because by you not putting money together, you end up with a rich wife and a poor husband, or a rich husband and a poor wife. Surely, the class war, the proletariat. If you're a Marxist thinking, and, now you need to understand clearly the moment one of you is richer than the other, there's no way you have a good friendship. It's very difficult for a rich man to be friends with a poor one. That becomes more of a donor beneficiary kind of relationship. True marriage is only possible according to God's word, as per recommendation, when the two of you become one. In other words, nobody is richer than the other. Everything that your wife owns is yours, and everything you own is owned by your wife. Put a different way, you are poor totally. You own nothing yourself, because the only thing you own is what you own together. If you refuse that biblical teaching, what will happen is you end up with a rich man and a poor wife. And by the way, when it is the man richer than the wife, normally, my experience, and I'm not as old as either Professor or Jogujeru, but my shorter experience tells me it doesn't, if it is the husband richer than the wife, there will be problems, but they will not be gigantic. The moment the wife is the one who has more money than the husband, you know, all of a sudden she wonders, how can I be your wife? Mwanaume ni pesa. So you are not a mwanaume. You are not a husband because you are not able to provide. I am the one meeting the family's needs. And there will be trouble in your marriage when that happens. But when you are equally rich or equally poor, you tend to be able to budget that money and nobody feels left out. And that is certainly going to be something that helps you. And that's a very critical thing. So, and I'm saying so that you understand, as you do that basically the things that the Bible is recommending, which are the one that Jogujeru is recommending, is because the Bible wants you to avoid that rich father, rich husband, poor wife, and the implications that happens in it. Thirdly and importantly, the moment you don't have money together, you allow yourself, once your children have gone beyond age 10, they now know who is the real parent. Because you see, every time they go to one, and he knows he doesn't have as much, he says, ask your mother. Ask your mother. Within no time, there is no respect for the father, because the children know he is useless. He can't help them. What about if they're working together? It means the children will never see one parent as the provider or the poorer. They'll see these parents are together. I cannot get anything. So this is very important to understand. When you don't work together, you open up yourself to being played around by the children, manipulated by the children. And of course, the way they are manipulating you, you are teaching them how to behave in life at a time. And you have destroyed their future simply by the way they have seen that they can actually manipulate you. How many more minutes do I have? I think, according to me, I'm just about finished.
About 3.
Yes. So I want to conclude with those 3. Remember, my thesis is, please take the advice you are given by Mzee Jogujeru, and if you don't, be ready for the consequences I'm actually listing. And the last one I've mentioned is allowing children to actually manipulate you. But the last one, please be ready to have a very difficult retirement. I'm not quite that old, but so Jogujeru and Professor can give the story better. But the moment your money is not together, it means that now you are in old age and you don't have your money together. What happens is one of you has maybe the poorer one is the one who gets sick. The other one cannot allow their money to be actually used for the poorer one. So your retirement, when you have enough time to talk, enough time to work together, since you never did that when you are younger, it means your retirement years will be fighting years with a lot of challenges. In addition to the fact that since the children realize who was actually financing their life, that's the one whom they will give. They come home, and if the wife is the one who seems to be meeting the cost, all the gifts go to the mother, and on the way out he says, "Dad, can you take this 1,000?" But the mother has only been given 20,000. All of it was planted by a family that does not own money together and operated differently. My time is up, but you can see it's a big subject for any one of us who wants to enjoy our life before we go to face our Maker.
Wow, thank you very much, John. I believe there will be some feedback, some questions. So, nashukuru sana for the godly warning, and we hear you. Dad Wafula, karibu sana for your about 13-15 minutes. Karibu.
Thank you very much. Coming later, one of the blessings is that whatever I want to speak about has already been spoken. So one can feel, do I have to say anything? But because I've been given space, I'll say something. But I want to begin by agreeing both with our brother Njogunjeru and our brother John Nganga. What they have said is crucial, is very important. A few things I wanted just to add. Because I've been given time to speak, I want to also speak something. I'm thinking of Abraham. Abraham was very wealthy, and even also his son. But we don't find him in his life pursuing wealth or money. So as we talk about finances, one of the things I kind of remember even in my own life is your focus needs to be correct. Let the focus not be on wealth. Some people think they want to be a billionaire, they want to do many things. Those things are good, but they are not good when they are the targets. So I think, as they have talked, an important thing is, what is your pursuit in life? I think it should be walking more closely with God, like Abraham did. Then, as in Matthew 6:30, all these other things have a way of being added because you are not ignoring. But I think I want to say something else is transparency. They have talked about it. I think transparency is so important. And transparency means accounting. It doesn't matter whether you have joint accounts or whatever. What may work for one may not necessarily work for another. But for our side, when we got married, we opened a joint account. And all our accounts have been joined. And the authority to withdraw money is the signature of any. So they have the potential, one can go there and withdraw everything. But because we love one another, that doesn't happen. That's where trust is. You cannot say we must sign together because that's distrust. That's worked for us, transparency. And it doesn't have to be joint accounts. And also the issue of access to that money. I think it should be, the access should be available to both the spouses. It should be easy to get to the money. It's interesting. I'm not very good at keeping money in my wallet. Oftentimes I found myself without any money. And what happens is that kindly my wife goes through the wallet and finds there's no money and puts money there for me. So that if I go, I discover I don't have money, but I have money. I say, where did this money come from? She has put it there. That's part of the trust. And so she can't ask me what money is, because like we discovered long ago when we were doing a part-time private practice, that my secretary was stealing from us. We're giving the money to bank, but we're always going to our salaries to pay their salaries. So she said, bring all the money I eat, or we eat. Why are you spending the money there? And when I brought the money home, we found that we had enough money to pay for the salaries and everything else. So from that point, humorously, I said, from now on, you become the financial director of the home. And that's what she has been. Because she's gifted more than I am in terms of handling finances. And so it doesn't come like, where has the money been? It's interesting because most of the time she worked sometime much earlier, but she retired much earlier. As she says, there hasn't been a difference in terms of how she does things because of this transparency, because of that easiness to deal with finances. So being easy with money, as our brother Nganga says, removes wars because it's our money. And when the money comes, we look at it together. So there should be a transparency and an agreement on how to spend, what you spend on. Also the priorities, which are godly. If the priorities are godly, that will be good. Some of us have characteristics which are different. But I think concurrence is useful. Concurrence by nature does not mean total agreement. You may still have a difference of opinion on how things are done. That's why, as the head of the house, you may still make a final decision, not on a selfish one, but for things to go on. It doesn't mean that for it to work, you must always agree, and the wife's point or your point must always be the one to go. Eventually, you have the casting vote, but on the well-being of the family. So the concurrence and agreement is important because that's what brings you together. I don't think we have a lot of things in our home, but the few things we have been developed by my wife, who has not been working. The little we gave, she's the one who has invested. And then she gets them, and then I get the benefit. The one she received initially was much smaller, but she invests and gets it because she's gifted differently. And then when it comes, it's not my money, it's our money. So being transparent and having concurrence is a good thing. Good because it helps our family. It's interesting. Our children knew what we had arranged in the family about who was dealing with finances. They knew I was the one working, but they knew that the financial director was the mother. So sometimes they would go ask the mother about what needed to be done. And she would say, but have you talked to your father? But that would be, so they knew where it was, that the finances was, we had an agreement. On a humorous point, the last one is sometimes quite humorous. One time he would make a family suggestion that the mother had been financial director for so long. Now he wanted to be the financial director for the family for a while. Of course, he's never voted in. So that financial freedom helps, so that people can now think of what need to be. I think when it talks about expenditure, I think they have covered very well. Whichever way we have been able to pay fees for young people, we don't know. They are not our relatives, but it's a godly thing. We have helped families, both sides. Our siblings brought them through school. And sometimes we're now doing the harvest because they're so grateful. They are like our children. But we did not do it so that they can be like our children. But that's part of the planting and you harvest. So you help out. We are concurrent in spending. There's another thing which sometimes people struggle about. Some of us may be considered a little mean. We don't want to spend that. We hold money owned. But if you put such a person in a corner, they say, I'm not mean, I'm only frugal. I'm trying to be careful how to spend the money. So both of them are saying, one of them is a negative, one of them is a positive. Others, they say maybe they are extravagant. Extravagant means that if he has any money, people can easily get it out of him. But they only say, I'm not extravagant, I'm generous, a positive one. So there should be an understanding, whether frugal or generous, to be aware there's a balance, there's an agreement. It just happens that my wife and I are different. I tend to lean more on the lower one, extravagant stroke generous, but she tends to be more on the mean stroke frugal. So that's a balance God gave us. And so you cannot say she's mean. No, I'm frugal. If I'm cornered, maybe you're extravagant. No, I'm generous. Look at the positive side. But I think it's important for us to know that we need to provide leadership. Leadership God has given us. We cannot run away. And our wives need that leadership. They may also push the point forward. But if there comes a time that when you think in the best of your knowledge, what you think should be done is this way, even if your wife has a different position and you have prayerfully done it, then maybe that's the direction to take, because that's the position. I wanted to just, before I end, I think it's good for us to accept the gifting God has given us. I think God in His mercy can allow me to get money. But I tend to be terrible with on how I deal with it. If you leave me alone in company with money for some time, after some time, I will have very little of it, and I won't tell you what has happened. Somehow I've not been doing outrageous things, but maybe not as useful. So in our family, we find when it comes to finances, my wife is better gifted at that things. So I don't think your family should be like mine. But let the Lord in His mercy guide you. How are you gifted to make a pair? So that your different giftings are harnessed to the good of all. So you don't go to say you are mean. If you are in a hurry to say you are mean, maybe consider that they are frugal. And don't be in a hurry to say you are extravagant. Maybe they are generous. And somewhere along the way, God will create the balance. But as I said earlier, I agree with what has been said before entirely. And my biggest problem was, what do I have to say, since everything has been said? But now my time is over. Thank you.
Well, yeah, we can clap for the elders. I think Zoom has provided some ways to clap without making. Yeah, I can see a number of you are quick and fast enough. Thank you, guys. It's so good to know that you're listening. You're on. At this point, I want to invite James for feedback or any questions. If he has any chats, he can read them out, or he can invite us to unmute ourselves and just take a few seconds to ask a question. So James Mbogwa, karibu sana.
Wow. Thank you, Tony, for the opportunity. I think I'm really grateful. Down some few things to think through. Mine is rather easy. Want to just first of all thank our dads for sharing so candidly their own personal testimonies. I think it's such a joy to hear quite some profound issues, even to do with our wills, writing them early, and also our own retirement, so that we don't think that we are growing any younger. But that being said, I think from the start, some of the questions I've gotten one of, or to share her financials. Naume. What we could direct us to one of the dads. Feel free to respond.
James, I think we lost you a bit there. You broke a little. Can you go?
Oh, okay. Sorry.
You can go at it again.
Oh, okay. The issue is that someone is asking, what if your partner is refusing to be open or share her financials? Do you decide to soldier on silently, kimwanaume? So, of course, I think the feeling is that the wife might not be very willing to share her position or her finances. And so there is that inclination to feel like you need to soldier on and carry the burden alone.
I think I will try to say, but others will say, I don't know how one can sincerely refuse to share when you have chosen to have a marriage. Because really that's asking problems. One of the major problems is that some ladies have real concerns that even when men say they love the Lord, but when they share, they lose everything of theirs to the men. The men take over and they have no say. Maybe that's part of it. Maybe partly because of what we've done. But for the man, I think do more. Allow God to help you more. Maybe show that you can be trusted. Reach out to her. Be more friendly to her. Be, whatever it is. But it's not a question of soldiering on as an independent. You know, political parties can have independence, but in marriage, my understanding is you are doomed if you are independent. You need to work together. I don't know what my colleagues will do, but I fear if I say that one soldier on independently. I think you need to be in prayer, pursuing, consistent, but urging that the Lord may bring you together.
My comment would be you need to see it, and I'm not a doctor, as a symptom of a bigger disease. So, you know, sometimes the Kikuyus, when you have a cold, they say, no keuti. And that just means it's such a small thing, you shouldn't bother any doctor, it's small. But this is not a symptom of a small disease. Because if somebody is running their own financial life and telling you they don't want to participate in yours, basically they are telling you the three things. They don't trust you with the information they have. Number two, which is very likely, they don't see this marriage lasting. And that's why they are preparing. So when you go separate ways, they will not be going scot-free. Number three, they think they don't trust your financial management. They think you are either frugal or, what was the other word? There was frugal and extravagant. No, frugal, it was a positive one.
Mean or extravagant.
Mean or extravagant. Now, so I think those three tell you that you actually do have a problem. Obviously, if your wife has refused to share, you have no alternative than to accept he has refused. But if you know you have a serious disease, you don't sit there. You look for the doctor. Use every means possible to go to the very best doctor that you can afford. So similarly, don't ignore it. Please see it as a symptom of a very serious disease. Whether it is you looking for a kind of a retreat to find out what is the problem, what have I done wrong, because you should start with yourself, because I think that's what Professor is saying. Maybe there is a way you have carried yourself that has made her not trust you. So find out how you can sort out. If that's not possible, look for your best friends. I don't want to say the best couple, because sometimes the best couple are just flower girls. So they finish their job, Now, 5 years, 7 years later, you even wonder how they ended up on your queue. So we are not, I'm not telling you to go to your best man, except if he's your best friend. And basically, when I talk about it, it's not the best man, it's the best couple. Because you don't want two people advising each other contradictory. It's very dangerous to go to, your wife goes to one person and you go to another person, you could end up with mixed up advice. But although that's not our topic today. But it means you need to go to them. Thirdly, if that's not possible, if it's a pastor that they value, find out whether the pastor can help you. But do not assume you can run your life with one of you running separately. It's not real. It's that the dysfunctional marriage.
Sorry, let me just agree with my brothers, but also add something that I think would be very helpful, and that is just language. I think this would be an indication that she is not trusting you. As my brother Nanga has said, there is something that she does not understand, something that she does not accept. And it is very, very important for you to share with her the need to pray to God for guidance, because you have to accept that you are man and wife. That is, it is not an agreement, it is not a contract, it is an agreement for life and for living. So I would suggest that we share that there are 3 symbols that we must think about. One of them is please. Please. The other one is sorry. The other one is thank you. Those 3. There is something you need to understand from her, and please say sorry if you did wrong. Then be grateful to her. Thank you for who you are to me. It is also good to please plead with her. Please share with me. Please let me know. Have I done wrong? What have I done wrong? What can we put right? Because this must be the way to live together. Is really to understand each other, to accept each other, and to remain committed, but also to have spiritual attitude, spiritual approach, because disagreement in that aspect of finances, financial involvements, investments, whatever, those are very key issues. I think it is important to understand one another and to talk and to share and to pray and to agree. God bless.
Bogua. May I add something? Bogua.
Sure. Yes. Go on.
There's something we have left out, I think, in the discussion tonight. That you cannot share money if you don't share budget. That the moment you agree to have money together, it means you cannot use a sharing without her permission. Once the money is put together, you lose the right to it. You now have to agree together how to use the money. I keep making people laugh to say when you hear a husband buying a big gift for the wife, it just means they have a problem. This is a way of announcing that actually in our case, our money is not together. Because where did you get the money to buy your wife a big gift? So I think it's important to, and of course, because we keep talking about it, you can see that the majority of families, money is not together. You need to understand that if your wife is going to have her money with you, your money also must be hers. And it means that you cannot buy anything outside what I normally contingency money, which means you can buy me lunch with that one. You can buy me a handkerchief with that one. But you can't buy a car with it. Outside that kind of level, every decision about money must be approved by your wife. Now, when she realizes that, it will be far much easier for her to agree to work with you. The moment she realizes she is also going to be a core manager of the joint money. I hope that helps to clarify. We had left out that.
That does clarify a lot. Thank you, Brother John. I don't know whether there are any of the dads in the forum who would like to raise a question, maybe directly.
Maybe to John to probably explain a little on that contingency a bit. I know there's a place I heard you talk of, you give it a percentage of the budget, which becomes the out pocket for each of the couple to now do the surprises. Maybe you can explain a little on that.
Yeah, in most, I work for a multinational company, and we were allowed that we could go above budget by 5% without explaining, and we could go below budget by 5% without explaining. That 10% range meant we didn't have to write a story explaining what happened in that year. And I'm saying the reason you are given that is because even at your very best budgeting, there is a possibility of things coming that are not predicted. Similarly, you don't want your wife to feel suffocated, that she has to come to you for permission to get money to buy her underwear. Now, when it reaches that level, the person loses dignity. Now, that's why we always recommend for families to have money which your wife can use without telling you about it. She doesn't have to explain. You also can use without. But if that money becomes much beyond a certain level, that's what I'm saying, 5 to 10%, then obviously it will start affecting the main activities of the budget, and yet it's not part of the budget at all. And because none of us has a lot of money, you can't really give it in a big way. And the bigger it becomes, the less you are encouraging differences and lack of living with oneness. I hope that adds to the issue.
Yes, it does. Thank you very much. I've not seen another question. I think the only thing I've seen is a follow-up on the question that had been asked earlier. I will read it as it is. Thank you for the comments on the partner refusing to open up her financials. Is it possible to clarify on who is the problem in this predicament of not opening up to her financials? Is it that the wife has a problem, or is it me who has a problem, or is it both of us? Or in other words, who do you blame?
I think we answered that question. We said we don't know. That's why Mr. Jero said you go looking for information, and each case will be different. Sometimes it will be the wife is just being difficult because where she was brought up. She was brought up by a mother who kept saying, you must always keep money for the rainy day. And because of her background, she's having difficulty sharing. But it may be also possible that it is the husband who is not trustworthy. That's why they cannot put the money together. But then it may also turn out both of them have a problem. So I don't think you can easily upfront just blame any one of them. We need to investigate.
I agree totally. And if there's any blame for one to make, the easiest way to blame is to begin with yourself. Maybe I'm the one. And allow God to reveal to you maybe areas. Because it's about Christian walking in tune with God. I think we're familiar with what we are supposed to do with one another. And sometimes when these things crop up, it may be that our walk with God has a laxity somewhere. Because true love does not go to the excesses we are talking about. Because love trusts, and there are many, many things. So as our brother Nganga has said, this is an indication of something bigger. And that bigger one, God needs to help us through it. Maybe a retreat, maybe together or with some help from elsewhere. And not that it can't be done, because there have been worse. God is able to open up. But I think the biggest thing is, please allow God to help you find the solution.
I think it is also important to repeat what we have agreed on as in the presentations, that in marriage, spiritually, we have to really agree that the best attitude is that there is no money for there's no money for me. Our money is one. Why? Because we spend it as one family. In my experience, we have had a joint account since we got married. And because of that, we found it easy to discuss it concerning expenses, so that there was no money for her and there was no money for me. It was money for us. We would get rich together, we would get poor together, because we depend on one another in what we do for the house, for the work, for gifts, for support. Even support of ministries. We knew what ministries would support and why. Because we would always be discussing these issues. So when we share that and we are honest about my mind, I mean, what I get, whether it's promotion or whether it is allowance or whether it's salary, whatever, we really take it as our money. I don't take it as my money. She doesn't take it as her money. At the beginning of our life together, she actually was earning more than I was getting myself, because she was a head teacher in a secondary school, and she earned more than me. But we did not see that as an issue. Later on, I was earning more than her, but that was no issue, because the money belonged to us. And the more we got together, the more we spent, the more we discussed what to spend it on, because at a joint account, we approached it together. So it depends on how you view issues and how you relate and how open you are about what is there for the family and what the family is. As the Nana was saying, budgeting is very important. So may God bless you.
Amen. Thank you very much. A few more questions have flowed in, and I think you can address yourselves to any of them.
James,
The first one saying,
you check on time,
yes.
So I think just you can read so that we also keep to our time, so you can make them briefer. Yes.
Not a problem, that's okay. So how do you deal with the situation where one side of the in-laws has more need of financial assistance than the other? And where does a couple meet if the husband is a bit free in spending and the wife wants to plan for every coin?
Are those the only two? Read all of them.
Early stages of marriage, there are so many dilemmas and competing need in terms of investments and other things. And I believe our dads were there once. Do they have any regrets? If any, how differently would they go about it? That's it.
Let me add one more that has been sent this way. There is this notion.
Okay.
There is this notion that the man is the head and sole provider of the family. What about the man? What about the man does not mind? What about if the man does not mind this view, and the wife will always come in to support at her will without being forced or reminded. Is there a problem in such?
Of course there is. That's what you have spent the whole night talking about. That the moment you are not working together, then the person is there. You'll be like your child complaining about the bicycle not being bought. Your wife is not your child. She needs to have access to your money and own it together with you. So the traditional method of assuming that if the wife has money, she just gives it to you, or you are the only provider, will be a problem, because it will mean you don't experience what economists call economies of scale. Because you are going to plan your money, she plans her money separate, because after all you are the provider, and yet he still is earning money, and there'll be a problem with it. So I think that's something that we need to. I thought we need to talk about that now. Where the other question was about helping in-laws. You really don't help in-laws on the basis who are they. It's according to the need. So you don't start saying, hey, we have helped 2 here, let's help 2 here. It is where is the need. And even the need is not determined by, like now, if it's your side, it is the both of you guys coming together and agreeing where is the need, what can we afford.
Okay, thank you. Tony, I think we can revert back to you.
I think you had one more about regrets. I'm not sure how it read.
Oh, yeah, the one about regrets was that in the early stages of marriage, there are usually very many dilemmas and competing needs in terms of investments and the things that need to be done. I think as the family gets settled down. And then now the question was being posed to the fathers. How are they able to deal with it in their time when they were a bit younger in the marriage?
According to me, that's what we have been doing the whole night. We have been telling you about how we handled our challenges. So unless, of course, the question is a question we discussed with Tony some time back, where people want to know your failures so that they copy them. They can go and tell them, I'm not the only one who failed. Even Professor failed. I'm sure that is encouraging worship of the devil. You need to learn from the principles. Don't necessarily go hunting for failures. But anyway, the other two can mention in the 1 or 2 minutes remaining.
Yes, maybe I can also mention. I think one of the things that is important, you plan your life and pray and see how God leads you. My younger years, I had a different perspective on where I knew I would be a doctor, but I had many things of what I would do. I'd settled being a pediatrician, but I thought I would be many things. But along the way, where I wanted to go did not happen. Not because I didn't try enough, but as if there were blockages. Looking back now, those blockages were God-made. Where I am now, I feel that that's where God wanted me to be. So as we walk with God and you do what you are doing best, oftentimes He will lead you to an area which is suited for you. You know, it's not a question of being the top of anything or having the biggest amount of financial investment or property, but where God would rather have you and fulfilled and impacting. That's the pursuit. Then, as our brother Nganga said, it's not really I wish I had, because along the way God has been with you. And there are areas which was not comfortable. You would have thought to have gone one way, but looking back now, where you wanted to go would not have been a better place. But God, it has taken God to lead you to understanding. So for me, I'm glad I've gone the way I've gone. But I didn't feel that way at the beginning. I had other ideas. And that's normal. But along the way, God seems to shape so that the route you take is not exact what you thought of earlier. And where you end up is where God wants you to be. That's fulfilling.
Thank you. Wow. Thank you very much. I hope it's clear that it's not about regrets. It's about journeying with God, that in retrospect, in years later, you look back and actually are grateful that God didn't lead you that way. It was His providence, it was His leading, it is walking with God. And so that we're not learning from their mistakes. There are no mistakes. So long as the bottom line, I believe, like Anga said, the principle is walking with God. And Wafula has really emphasized on that. That our finances will reflect our walk with God, our intimacy with God, our friendship with our wives. I think Nanga summarized Dad's sharing as money is the outer coat, influenced a lot by what is happening inside our hearts as men. Is there love? What are our attitudes? Are we walking in the fear of God? So we really want to thank you. That's a big topic to handle in 50 minutes, but we really do appreciate. And I just want to remind the fathers, we agreed to be meeting outside of this forum at least once a month also to pray. And we had a prayer about 2 weeks ago. And I think it is also in that time we also were able to share and discuss how do we integrate these things in our own lives? How do they reflect? I think after that Wafula's sharing last time about loving your wife, it generated a lot of not just heat but light, and that's where integration comes in. So we would be telling you fathers, the younger fathers, when our next prayer meeting will be, as we also make a few other announcements in the group. But for this meeting, we'll meet again in July. It's a Wednesday. Thank you for agreeing to adjust today to a Thursday this week, because one of us here had a commitment yesterday, and I agreed to share with the senior fathers the dates of every month, every Wednesday. We hope to meet so that then they can plan in advance for the next probably 5 months. But we really do appreciate it. So thank you. I will pray. I don't know whether Ruto is still here. Please, Ruto, you can unmute and make a prayer as our chair. Again, we want to welcome all of you who joined us today. We will get to know each other as we continue. Bwana Ruto, unmute and close for us with a prayer.
Thank you so much, Brother Anthony, for leading us so well. Thank you so much also our elder dads for being so open and for also allowing us to learn and to enjoy your life on the experiences you've had. I don't know if Tony, we have some few minutes because you had mentioned that the visitors can introduce themselves, maybe very briefly before we make the final prayer. I don't know.
All right.
Maybe you can release us. You can release us and you continue doing that. Is that okay?
Yes, agreeable.
Yeah.
You have the freedom.
So we are free to go ourselves.
Yes.
Okay then. Kwaheri and God bless you.
Thank you very much, Asanteni.
There is